Let's get ready to rumble!
Hello and welcome to Netflix vs. Cinema, the podcast that goes to the cinema, watches films, watches things on Netflix, and essentially tries to say which one is better. Where have we been better served this week? Has it been Netflix? Has it been cinema? My name is Tosin and I am your host, based up in Coventry in the Midlands. And joining me on the Isle of Wight, as always, are Sharon.
Hello.
And Shaun.
Hi, yeah.
Yes, thank you guys. You guys are keeping it nice and you're keeping it real, keeping it remaining on the island. Even though I left, you're keeping things holding things down, keeping the place from sinking.
Yeah, we're back on the white still.
Yeah, we are. We're here. We're holding the fort.
Cool. And this is this is going to be the last time we're all going to be together for a while, because Shaun, you have decided to up and leave us on one of your very many surgeons. So this time it's not Thailand. Where are you off to this time?
I'm off to the United States.
Yay.
So
you like Americas?
I do. I decided it was time. I mean, I've always loved America, and that was my first choice normally until I did go to. I mean, the thing is with Thailand was that because my uncle lives out there, it was cheap. You know what I mean? But I've decided that instead of going on these lazy holidays too much, I'm going to actually do so. So I'm going to go New York, going to go and Washington, and I'm going to go to Philadelphia because I've been through Philadelphia,
nice.
but I haven't. So I want to visit. I mean, really, I love the West, and like the Midwest, but I'm gonna spend a little bit. I have been to the East Coast, but I'm going to spend a little bit.
Normally, I'm a bit like meh about America, but that's the bits I'd like to see.
What, New York or West Coast?
New York.
Because you've been quite a lot, haven't you?
I've been a couple of times. I mean, I lived out there for 7 months. That was in LA on the West Coast.
West Coast.
There's a whole bit in the middle I've not been to. So I've done New York, I've done North Carolina, I did go to Florida. I've been to California, but I've driven through it. So I drove from LA up to Colorado, then across to Chicago. But apart from
wow, that's a few thousand miles.
Yeah. Well, I've done. I mean, in my younger days, going back is the trips, because I used to do the driveaways. I mean, I've been to 47 states.
I'm going to say you've nearly done all your.
I'm nearly
50,
done.
Haven't you?
Yeah. So.
What was it? Hawaii, Alaska, and
Alaska, and Maine.
Ah.
The two, so like the furthest ones. But no, the trips I did. I mean, I drove a Nissan Pathfinder from Boston.
Yep.
Picked up in Boston, took it to Denver. Yep. They gave me 7 days and 3,500 miles. But anyway, we're talking smoothies, aren't we? But I could do a whole different blog on that.
One thing I just wanted to say, and hello to Ben Smith, who I actually drove across America with, because he was driving from LA to Chicago, and I was like, well, I've got nothing to do, I'll come along. It was
How long did that take you?
It took us a couple of days. But we did stop at the Grand Canyon, have a look at that. We stopped in Las Vegas for 2 hours or something like that. I was like, that's enough. And and
you see, as a story I could tell. I mean, I went to Las Vegas back in '89, and it was before it had got huge and got big.
Yeah, because they do the residencies now, don't they? All the big celebs have.
I mean, that was when the Sands was there, and I mean, they had just built. Treasure Island one, but they hadn't built any of the ones further up the strip. You know, all the big new ones at Bellagio and all those ones. So, and the last time I went to Vegas, I'm like you, I thought, my God, this has changed because you had down. I mean, they even pedestrianised Fremont Street. So you used to have downtown, and Fremont was like where all the this cowboy, which doesn't exist anymore, the Glitter Gulch and all that. Howdy, partners. Anyway, that was like the rough area.
What you think of as being Las Vegas.
And it was just one. But now they've pedestrianised the whole place. They put a big dome over it and they have a light show. And I was like, totally disappointed.
This is not what I was expecting.
And
where's the whole strip that I wanted?
There used to be about a mile between downtown and the Mirage and Caesars. And now it's all filled in. Bob Stupak's Vegas World. They used to film... Oh, mate, sorry, just get on the cinema, otherwise we'll go on.
I can just imagine Shaun walking around going, what is this place? I don't even feel in danger of being stabbed. What?
Yeah. Where are the mobsters and the prostitutes?
Well, where the Sands used to be, they get rid of opposite Treasure Island, because they used Treasure Island to blow up the they knocked it down, and it's a massive shopping mall. And I used to eat so cheap. I used to get 2-for-1 Lucky Bucks, free hot dogs, free cocktails. Like, that's where I go every day. I'd see these girls in the street handing out these little booklets, and I'd go so I could live like super cheap. And I was going circus, so I'm going to go and get a $1.99 breakfast. I went up there and it was like about $10.99. I'm like, what? So shock, horror, probe.
Okay.
So you've got lots to look forward to next week.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
Sorry, I'm going off on my toes.
We look forward to your pictures, and I'm not sure whether you figured out how to use like Instagram stories or anything like that yet, but we look forward to all your updates.
Okay, I'll probably put the odd one or two on. I normally rely on other people, don't I?
Yes, yes, Shaun, you do. All right, cool. So, okay, now we're going to try to do something, and we know this is always very dangerous when we try and do something like this. When we say something along the lines of, well, there's not that much out in the cinema this week, so we're going to take a little bit of time to talk about some other stuff. But it is dangerous because, as you've seen, we've already spent 7 minutes on just Las Vegas, but we're going to try something. So there's a couple of things, because every now and then on the podcast, what we do is that one of us would have seen something and said, this is what we think about it. And somebody else will go see the thing, and then we'll come back and say, hey, this is what we thought. So we have a list of things that fall into this category. And Shaun, I'm going to kick off with you and Parasite.
Okay. Oh, Parasite! I saw Parasite. This was a special one.
Yeah, because I saw Parasite. I reviewed Parasite ages ago, not realizing it was going to be months before it was on general release in the UK. But yeah, you managed to see Parasite on a previous screening with Cineworld Unlimited.
Cineworld Unlimited. Yeah, it was a special. It was a one-off special. Pardon? Hello.
Hello.
Oh, you're still there.
Sorry. Oh, that's okay. Right. So. Yeah, so this was a one-off screening, and you reviewed it, and you'd given it a good review. I seem to remember.
Yeah,
you'd given it a good review. Well, I'm going to tell you something, Toes. Yep. What do you think I thought of this?
Well, the thing is, I'm going to be really surprised. I will be really surprised if you did not like it, because it is weird, it is out there, it is different from pretty much anything else that you've seen in the last couple of years in cinema. So I will be mega surprised if you don't like it.
No, you're exactly right. I actually love this film. This is the best film I've seen this year, definitely so far. I mean, that's the top one. I mean, it was just gorgeous. It was beautifully shot. Yeah. It was on so many levels, like with the rich people and the middle people and the down people, and I mean, there were some hilarious bits in there. Absolutely, and you're right, Toes. It's absolutely different. It's totally different to what you've seen before, and even now I'm thinking of certain scenes where I am just chuckling to myself, thinking about it.
I know exactly what.
Should we just say under the table?
Yes. I know exactly the scene you're talking about. I know exactly the scene. But I think it is. Parasite is a brilliant film. When that film gets out, if you have a chance, go see it. Go see it wherever you are. It is in Korean.
Someone told me.
It is in Korean, but you can handle 2 hours of reading. It's no big deal. Someone told me that it's actually up for, whether I believe them or not, I don't know, because I haven't looked. They reckon it's up for Best Picture.
It's been nominated.
It's been nominated as Best Picture. So that would be. Is that the first time in foreign film been nominated?
No, it isn't.
I don't know, because the piano. Was the piano? What was it? Life is Beautiful was
nominated. I think La Vie en Rose was nominated. That was.
Oh yeah.
So it isn't the first time or anything like that. It's probably the first time a Korean film has been nominated, or a film made from Southeast Asia has been nominated. Actually, I don't know. Maybe I think Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon might have been, but that's
great.
So it's but it's a very good film, Sharon. When it comes out, I could totally recommend it. And as I said, it starts off being being one thing. It switches. This film keeps changing what it is. It keeps changing, and you're kind of like, what? You can't. I think just about as when you're sitting down and you're getting relaxed and thinking, okay, cool, I figured out what this thing is. You're like, what the heck?
And also, what I liked about it, although there were situations, they were sort of maybe not towards the end, but they were like believable situations, which you could be. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I could easily see how that could happen. I could easily see how that could happen. That could certainly happen. a couple of bits, right? But and I mean, it was lovely. It was shot lovely as well, wasn't it? When they're sort of running off and they're running back to their
in the rain. The rain shot. Yes, some of the best rain I've seen. Some of the best rain scenes I've seen in like ever. And also, but the performances as well. I feel like everybody in the film, the performances are awesome. Like they are just so believable. They are so believable. Yeah,
they really,
But it's
that's
but
it.
Okay.
That's
all
it.
right, cool. So Parasite, that's Shaun saying yes, I was right. Shaun, did you get to see Bad Boys for Life?
Yes. I didn't. No, I didn't. I was. A couple of people recommended it. I'm sorry, Toes. I watched the trailer for it, and there was one bit in it where I can't remember. The two of them, they're busting in or something, and he makes a wisecrack, and I just thought, I'm not. That's not really. There's two of them. They it's in the trailer. I can't remember exactly what it is, but he goes, "Oh, what do you want to be?" Something. Yeah. He says something else. And,
it's like it's like we're bad boys. No, it's time to stop being bad boys. We got to be good men. Now, who the hell want to sing that song?
It was something along those lines. So, I mean, I will try and see it. I will try and get to see it just purely for the fact that I need to. I think because loads of people.
I'll tell you one thing about that, right? One thing about the film. There's a whole bunch of things that were in the trailer that I watched in the trailer and I thought, oh, that's a bit cheesy. But I'm not gonna lie. When they showed up in the film, I could not help just laughing out loud. There's a bit where they're driving along in the Porsche along Miami Beach, and because they're driving dangerously, Martin Lawrence says, "Don't worry, I know we're black, but we're also cops. We'll pull ourselves over later." And that cracked me up in the film when I watched it. It totally cracked me up, and I have to say, okay, because I want to give a shout out to all the people who went to Sexy School with me. That's right. The sixth form college I went to was called Sexy School. There was
what with an I?
With an EY. So SEXEY. Right. And there was a period where the first Bad Boys movie, it was on in the barn in Lisbury Barn almost like every day after school. People were just watching it. So much so that we could quote that film. And there's so many lines in it. Like there's one of them which is like, now back up, drop the gun, and hand me a packet of tropical fruit bubblicious. That's a Will Smith line. Then Martin Lawrence goes, and some Skittles. And in the context of the film, it's hilarious. And I can go on about this, but I will stop because you actually haven't seen the film, so I can't actually say about that. So we will move on. We'll move on. I saw Bombshell.
Yeah, we'll move on. Oh yeah. I reviewed this one, didn't I? What did you think?
I saw Bombshell, and I will confirm what I suspected. I think it's a 4-star film. I really, really, really liked it. Yeah. I thought it was really, really good.
You did say that.
I thought John Lithgow was really good, and I think John Lithgow, who plays Roger Ailes, I think he's so good that he disappears. You forget it's John Lithgow, and I don't know how he does it. That he is possibly the best performance in the film, but still he sort of goes into the background because the focus is the women. So I don't know whether it's like the direction or anything like that. I just think it's a very, very good performance. I like the way they sort of like approached it. I like the sort of, there's a little bit of like the Big Short kind of thing about it, about how this whole thing goes and about how Fox News works and about how this guy built this empire, raised when it comes to women on, quite frankly, objectifying women, like the whole thing about how a woman must always wear a skirt and the skirt must always be so high and like because you got to see the knees. And I was just it's just kind of there's scenes. There's one particular scene with Margot Robbie and John Lithgow in Roger Ailes' office that is skin crawling. It is just so like
I know the one you mean. I know the one. I know this scene. Yeah,
skin crawlingly just kind of. Oh God! You feel like you want to go take a shower after watching that scene. So I thought, I thought it was really well.
So you liked that one, did you?
What?
You liked that
I liked
film.
Bombshell. I'll give it a 4 out of 5, as I thought. And then you went to see The Witcher, and you saw The Witcher on Netflix.
I saw The Witcher on. This was on Sharon's recommendation. Yeah. It was good. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was quite good.
The fighting was good.
The fighting was good, yeah. And I quite liked him as the Witcher, and I quite like. I can't remember the name, but the one that was escaping with the baby when the assassin,
the witchy woman,
yeah, the witchy woman,
Yennefer.
Yeah,
Yennefer,
yeah.
Because
I mean, I must say that I was watching it, like one after the other, quite twice.
Yeah, I saw it in
binged it.
2 sessions.
That's what I was going to say. 2 sessions. So I binged it. Yeah, because I thought, well, because I watched the first one and I thought, yeah, where does this go? Where does this go? You know, with all the...
I know we kind of warned you, but how long did it take you before you figured out what the heck was going on?
Well, it wasn't on the same timeline. That there's some in the future, some in the past.
It's all over the place. Yeah.
It takes you a while to work out.
Yeah. Why did that happen? Yeah. Oh, hang on.
I thought he was dead.
Yeah. It was. I mean,
and that Witcher doesn't age, doesn't he? Because you forget that 20 years has passed, but he looks exactly the same. Yeah. But then these witches are not mortal men, are they?
No. I mean, I thought. Yeah. I mean, I thought I thought that. The women were quite strong characters.
I said before, Mona Burning, excellent. She's the sort of the mage mistress. And
Anya Chalotra plays Yennefer. She's really, really good.
And Yennefer. Yeah, she's good. Yeah. What do we know her from? I know her face, but I don't know what she's been in.
I think this is pretty much it's pretty much the first thing she's been in. She's only 22.
Oh, right.
Do you think they're doing another series?
Yeah,
almost certainly.
Yeah,
definitely.
Well, there's about nine books or something, so there's plenty of material there.
And I think
I mean, but for me, I'm going to give it. I'll probably give it a 4-star because I did quite enjoy it. You know, I mean, I was trying to find faults in it, and I thought, it's quite enjoyable.
Did you like that? Did you like that final battle scene where they were using magic in all sorts of like tactical ways and all that kind of stuff?
Tactical, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I mean,
where each of the mages has a different means of
thing. Yeah, goes how long can we hold? Yeah. No, that was a really good scene. I did like that a lot. And a few of the battle scenes really, when like the one earlier on where they, you know, it's
where the Queen goes to fight.
That, you know, but that was a good battle where they all sort of lined up and, you know, let's go. So but it was a good. I wouldn't say it was as good as Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah, no, come on! It's only had 1 season. I mean, even
so as in sort of world building. I think it's there's more to unravel.
I will say
but then Game of Thrones. I hope this doesn't fall on its backside like Game of Thrones.
I will say one thing. I think that this will be a lot easier. This show will be a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's not so much. I don't think it's going to be so intense.
Well, I think this is a lot more black and white. In this show, that it's a lot more black and white. The problem with Game of Thrones is that it was all grey. Then at the end, you try to end it. You have to have like some sort of black and white, and that's what I personally think that's what people were reacting to. They were reacting to the fact that, oh, hang on a second, but no, but if he did that, that should happen. This is what's been happening for the last 6 seasons, and it's like, but we have to end this thing somehow. But so I think that's what people were reacting to.
That's right.
Oh, all right, cool. And okay, I think that's everything that we're watching. And Sharon, you were saying just before we pressed record that you've been having a bit of a difficult time trying to watch things. So we decided we're going to name and shame the things that you've been trying to watch.
Yes, I did. I've had 3 false starts all on Netflix where I've watched 2.5 episodes of each, and I've thought, you know what, I don't really care.
Can you tell us them?
So the first one was Spinning Out, which is a drama about ice skating and sort of competitive ice skating. And I thought there might be elements of like I, Tonya about it, or there was a film years ago, I think it's called Ice Castles, that I watched long time ago. And I quite like ice skating and ice dancing. And I did actually go to the European Figure Skating Championships once with my friend, just to watch the professional, the real deal.
Real deal.
So I do enjoy it, and I thought I'll watch this, but to me it was far too soapy.
Okay, I'll tell you. Okay, the hands down the best ice skating movie of all time is a film called The Cutting Edge with Moira Kelly and D.B. Sweeney.
Yes, I know it.
Hands down, best ice skating movie of all time. I'm sorry.
Well, this has got an element of that, but instead of the boy in this is like he's an ice dancer, and the girl in it, she's like, was a championship ice dancer, but she had an accident and she fell and hurt herself. And then she's basically, they're saying she wants to qualify as a coach, but she fails her exam. And so they say, well, you should consider doing pairs dancing. And so she's paired up with this other guy. But then after that, it gets a little bit teen soapy for me. And I was thinking, really?
Yeah, okay, now I see, Sharon. Now, this is the thing. Everything you've said has made me think, oh my God, no. Because it sounds like a copy of Things That Are Better, like The Cutting Edge. And
exactly.
Yeah, and B, the trailer, like Shaun, you were talking about watching the trailer for Bad Boys for Life and thinking, no. I think even though I love Kaya Scodelario, who plays the lead in this, I saw the trailer for it and I just thought, no. I just went, no, just moved on. And if there was a way of telling Netflix, don't show me this thing again, I would have done it. Okay, so that was the first thing that that we've named and Shane, that you started watching.
Yeah, I watched 2 episodes of that and I was just like, can't be bothered, it's not worth it. And then I moved on to what I thought was slightly more promising, called The October Faction, which is a brand new sort of supernatural type drama where this family who are like demon hunters. It's a bit like sort of Supernatural. They're demon hunters. Mm-hmm. They're an older couple and they've got 2 teenage children, and his father dies, and so they basically go back to his family home, and basically as they go along, they encounter various demons and witches and
the like,
and their teenage children sort of have to go back to sort of have to start high school there, and they sort of join in. There's all of those cliques and factions. And again, I thought, you know what, I can't bother with this.
Overdone.
I watched 2 episodes. There is humour in it. It's a bit gooey in places, but there's so many like tropes about it. I thought, you know what? No, I can't be bothered. There's some potential there, but to me it was just far too sort of teen centric. So I thought, this is not for me. Though there were good elements, but I just thought, I just can't bother.
Okay.
So I watched 2 episodes of The October Faction, gave up, and then I thought the next one I thought I probably would like, and this was called Thieves in the Wood, and it's a Belgian-French drama series, 10-parter, historical drama set in the 1745, so it's just after the French have taken over the running of Belgium. Mm-hmm. And they're sort of basically the rules have become so strict. It's almost like pre-revolutionary. Well, it's pre-revolutionary France, where the aristos have all the money, and then people who can't pay their taxes, or if they get caught poaching, the punishments are so draconian, like flogging and then banishment. So if you're banished and you have no papers, you can't get a job, you can't live in a parish, you can't you're excommunicated.
And this is one that you think you're going to stick to the end.
Yes.
All right, cool.
And then I gave up on it. I watched 2 episodes, but for me, the reason I gave up on this one is it did warn you. You know how it's warning, it's rated 18 and it contains scenes of sexual violence. And I thought, well, they often warn you, and it may not be that bad, but I just found it a bit distasteful in some of those elements. Again, it was like the aristos hunting young girls and sort of raping them in the woods, and some of it was gratuitous. I was sort of stripping them in there. I thought, you know what's going to happen. I don't need to see young girls being brutalised.
As I say, sometimes I've had this conversation before. Sometimes they're unnecessary, aren't they?
Yeah.
You can leave. You can let things think. Okay, that's happened. We don't want 7 minutes of riding about with no clothes on. Yeah, you're going to go. You're going to do that,
especially when it's violent.
Yeah, violent. Yeah, and there was
and then there was one scene where one of the girls who's banished, she escapes these sort of predatory aristos, and then she flees into the woods and she gets taken into a brothel, and they're saying, well, if you're going to live here, you're going to work here. So she goes from the frying pan into the fire effectively, and then you see her with this sort of horrible client, and again you have to watch her being brutalized really, because she's not exactly willing. And you think, I don't need to see it. You can understand what's happening without seeing some man's naked rump doing what it has to do.
That's it.
And so I thought, you know what, can't be bothered. So 3 I started and I did not finish.
What was that one called?
Thieves in the Wood.
Thieves in the Wood.
But I thought that looked quite good until that bit.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you never really know, do you? Look at all these things, you never really know.
Can't tell, no.
No, that is true. Oh, it's funny, you talking about somebody, weirdly enough, and this is going to sound very weird, you talking about someone having to go into a brothel reminded me of something, which was, it was my sister-in-law was around on this weekend, and she, when she was coming up here from Exeter on the train, she was actually listening to the podcast. And so she came up and she was like, oh, what are we going to watch? What are we going to watch that's going to be on the podcast? Let's watch something on Netflix that's going to be on the podcast. and she was actually, and based on what you said, she actually asked me, she was like, have you started watching Harlots yet? It sounds really, really interesting. So,
see, Harlots takes a difficult subject matter, but you never see anything.
That's what I mean.
It's suggested. You may see the odd sort of naked body, or you may see sort of like a lady's shoulders, but there's no nipples in it in any of the seasons, and so you know what's going on. but it's not gratuitous in any way or salacious. Yeah. And so you get to see that some of the girls do it because they don't mind, and others are like forced into that situation. But it's more about the women than it is about the clients. And I thought sometimes is that it's filmed in a way that it's all about the men. It's not really about the women at all. Even though you see them crying and sobbing, it's like it's actually not about them. It's all about male gratification, which is distasteful. But I thought Harlots, it is about the women, and in that show, there's no mistaking it. The women have all the power.
Okay.
In a situation where you think they shouldn't have any, they do. Yeah. So I would say watch Harlots. Watch Harlots.
So that's Adwa, or as she also goes by, Rachel. Adwa, you hear that? Sharon is saying, go do it. Even though we can't find anywhere to watch it for free, it's worth tracking down. Right, now, let us move on. We will talk about films in a second, but I was wondering whether we could have a quick 5 minutes. We said we were going to talk about it last week, and I think, Sharon, you said something along the lines of, and we know we're talking about Oscars, and I've been talking for about, I think, 2-3 weeks now about how disappointed I am in the award season, and you said something along the lines of, we need to have a chat about whether it's worth showing representation, or whether it's more important that we get representation, or whether it is that we get good films. Something along those lines.
Yes. Is the key thing about performance, or is it about, should it be about representation, or should it be about rewarding a genuinely good performance? And they can be both the same thing at the same time. You can reward good performance, and it's also representative. But should one really? I don't know if how do you feel about it? Do you feel there should be more representation, or should it be sort of colourblind and sort of diversity blind almost?
It's
just to
it's funny you say this because sorry, carry on, Shaun.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering. Actually, funny about probably a film we're going to talk about later, which was really but I was thinking that, to me, I mean, I do understand it all, and I understand all the thing, but it's like, I think it's getting a little bit pushed too much that it's actually getting noticeable. It's a bit like Endgame when it's like, where you go alone? Oh, she's not alone.
We have women.
Do you know what I mean? And it's all very being pushed in, very, very, very noticeable. And it's like, perhaps sometimes it's a bit too overdone, I think.
Well, I'd like to hear your opinion on it, Toast. Yeah. But part of me would think, if I felt that there was a genuinely outstanding performance that had been missed, I think you would feel outraged about it. But I must admit, I was thinking, back in my brain, thinking, were there any performances I thought that deserves a nod and it didn't get any? Because every now and then you do think, why have they ignored that completely? Like we said about Tom Hardy and Legend a few years ago. We said, how could you ignore that when it was a barnstormer of a performance? And other times you're thinking, when I watched Judy with Renee Zellweger, I thought she's going to get a nod for this.
A nod,
even though I didn't think it was brilliant. No, I thought it was good. It wasn't brilliant, but I thought she's going to get a nod for this. And you just know.
It's funny because sometimes you see a performance and you straight away go, "Oh, that is a brilliant performance," but that's not going to get a nod. Like, for instance, one of the most impressive performances that I saw in the last year was George Mackay in 1917. I thought he was amazing.
Yes.
I thought he was amazing in it, but I was like, they're going to totally...
Absolutely convincing all the way through.
I was like, they're going to totally ignore that performance because it's not showy enough. And I said something that started along these lines last week, and this is where I'm really beginning to feel like the whole awards thing is a bunch of rubbish, because it's where politics starts getting into the thing that you love, which is film. And so obviously we're all film buffs, so we think it should all be about the film, and oh my God, you must have the film, it must be the film. But obviously there is this sort of political thing that comes on the outside, and there's this sort of like bias thing that comes on the outside. So for me, what I think, and essentially my take on it is, I agree, what we want first and foremost is good films. But at the same time, we have to realize that the people who make these films are humans. And because they're humans and because there's all these pressures, very often you will just stick with what you know. And if the people who have been allowed to make films for so long have been, majority speaking, white men, then they'll stick with what they know and they'll tell stories about their own world and all that kind of stuff. And even when if they go and it's a bit like, the whole white savior trope you have, like Shaun, remember like the Great Wall, and the whole idea is, and it's like, why is this important? This is only important because it's the white man who's experiencing it, and the Chinese people who are experiencing it, no big deal. But once the white man pays attention, then it's important. and it has that kind of element about it. And I think yelling about representation, I think because of the way Hollywood is, because there's so much pressure, because they're saying we're going to be spending millions of dollars, therefore we want to make our money back. There's all this pressure, and Hollywood is known for not being, not taking risks, not being innovative, and just sticking with what we know will work, which is why we are going to get a Fast and Furious 9, because they know that will work.
That makes money.
They know that will work, so that's what they're going to give you. So if someone walks up and says, "Hey,"
although Moonlight won the Best Picture Oscar.
Yeah, Moonlight won it won a Best Picture Oscar a few years back. But then if you say, okay, but let's move a couple of years forward. So for me, it's not so much whether they're being given awards or not. My question is, are there opportunities?
I think that deserves, because I can still remember that film. I can still remember that film, and there's lots of films that I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I do remember that film, and that was a really, really good film and a terrific performance.
So you're saying if the actual source of material is so narrow that you can only choose from that particular pool of talent, as it were, then you are going to get the same people being nominated year after year, because they're the ones who are in these high budget films. But if you broaden the scope and you make more films from a more diverse background or culture or experience, then you're going to get more representation, because they're going to be in a much broader pool of films.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so that is, and for me, I remember there was a time when around about the Oscar So White controversy, or the Oscar So White hashtag, when Jada Pinkett Smith said that she wasn't going to go to the Oscars because none of the nominees were black. For me, that I remember even saying then that was not my problem was not that none of the nominees are black. No, my problem is that there's not enough films being made with black people in prominent positions. So so it's not.
They started to, though, haven't they? Now they've started to with I think more with Black Klansman. Did quite well.
Yeah, they started doing more. They started doing more films like that. But I think at the moment the problem is still that if you're trying to weigh it out, there's still not that many. And then when you come to the people, and this is the bit that gets me, because one thing that we've got to that. I remember being a bit crestfallen when I realized it for the first time, that people actually vote for the Oscars, which means that there are a certain group of people who vote. And when you look, and because they said the rules for being part of the Academy that voted for the Oscars means that you had to be involved in film in some way. So that meant that the people who had been involved in film so far had been white men. So it's
just going to keep perpetuating the same cycle.
So they were the ones who were doing the voting for the films that they were coming, and it's just human nature. You will vote for something that
that reflects your experience.
Which is why if you look at the number of Oscar winners that are films made about Hollywood, it's because everybody in Hollywood is like, we recognize that. Yeah, that's us. Argo by Ben Hudson. Oh, not Ben Hudson. Ben Hudson's a friend of mine. Hi, Ben. By Ben Affleck.
Ben Affleck.
Although Ben Hudson is a very, very good actor name. So, but by Ben Affleck. Argo, that was Hollywood are the good guys. Hollywood are going to go to Iran and save all these people. They were like, yes, give it a Best Picture Oscar. So you and so that's why people vote for that. Yeah, we recognize that. But if you make something like, if we go back the last couple of years, something like a Straight Outta Compton, which a lot of the people who were voting for Oscars would have sat down there and gone, that is a weird world. Why are they swearing so much? Something like that.
Yeah, I really like that film. I really like Straight Outta Compton.
Yeah, I know.
I liked there's quite a few films. I didn't mind. Eyes on Me was okay.
So Shaun, that's what we need. We need more people like you in the Academy who see a world that you do not know about and go, ooh, now that's interesting. I know nothing about that. That's very good. but I think.
Yeah, no, I mean it was they're good films. I like them all. I mean, I like going all the way back to Boys in the Hood.
Boys in the Hood wasn't awesome.
Those
but that did actually get that. Yeah. But the problem is, Boys in the Hood. That's 1992. That gets nominated for.
Is that long ago?
It is that long ago.
Yeah, wow.
It gets nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. John Singleton gets nominated for Best Director. He was like the youngest person ever to get nominated for Best Director at the age of 20. He was 20, I think around about 27 or something like that when he got nominated for that. But then But this is the problem that keeps happening. One film breaks through that doesn't fit the usual doesn't fit the usual white man world mold at the Oscars, which is so Boys in the Hood breaks through, and it's almost as if Hollywood goes, yeah, well, we recognize that film then, and then it's like 10 years before another one comes.
Yeah, no, I do. I understand what you're saying. Really, I do understand. It's probably that the Oscar people who vote probably don't go to watch those movies. They just watch.
I remember the same argument's been made in a different tone, but about when British films do. Because I remember Colin Welland saying the British are coming, didn't he? All those many years ago with Chariots of Fire, or whenever. Yeah, that was it. Chariots of Fire, and then every now and then you get one British film will break through and become like huge all over the world, and then. It's back to the status quo again, where it's like maybe every 2 or 3 years, that's why, one will break through. But like 1917 or Dunkirk or something. Yeah. So one will just go ping, and then it will come through, disappear.
But I mean, I think that's why it's great. You have like the other festivals, like the Cannes Festival.
Yeah, they do recognise the more diverse.
Sundance, which is how it should be, really. Those are ones I give more credibility and more credence to, like the Palme d'Or than I do the Oscars. The Oscars. Sometimes the Oscars are okay, but
to be honest with you, I hate to become a raging cliche, but I'm beginning raging film buff cliche. But I'm beginning to give more credence to things like the Screen Actor Guild Awards and the Independent Spirit Awards, because I feel like then you get to find it tends to not to be films that have big, massive. Campaigns to give us an Oscar. It's like it tends to be smaller films. Like there's a film that is being released this weekend, Queen and Slim, that I'm hearing a lot of good things about. I'm hearing so many good things about Queen.
Yes.
And I think of all the films, Queen and Slim is the big one that people are looking at. That's when it comes to a film by a filmmaker and by actors who are not white. I know that there's a whole thing about people who are women as well, and people talking about the fact that Little Women seems like people are yelling about the fact that Greta Gerwig didn't get a Best Director nomination. But quite frankly, the selection this year, I am, apart from 1917 and Parasite, I'm a bit underwhelmed with it. Especially all the love that Joker is getting. Shaun, I know you like it, but honestly, I am baffled.
Yeah, I do.
I am baffled at all the love that film is getting.
I mean, it's not a best film.
See, no, but for me, it is a terrific performance because I've known people with mental disorders, and to me, it
his
all makes sense.
Is quite hypnotic, and it's
I'm not saying that the film deserves Best Oscar, but the performance is absolutely.
I agree with you on Shaun, I agree with you on the performance. The performance is excellent, but the film is. What's all the fuss?
Wow. I mean, but for me, see, this is it. The films I like. I mean, it's not so much all the action and all that sort of stuff.
No, you can't.
To
like
me,
indie.
I like the bit. I like the bit like where he's got the cigarettes. You know what I mean? And he's sort of getting right down to the end. The bit when he's talking to the psychiatrist and all that. Those are the scenes I love. Not so much the violence in the subway or stuff like that.
Dancing just on the stairs.
Because I love studying characters. I love studying people, and you could see his descent into madness. And I really love that performance. It's a bit like another film we're going to talk about, but which was a remake of a film that I once did when we used to have a podcast, didn't we? Don't Make Them Like They Used to. Yeah. And I did a film, 1963 film, and I watched a remake, The Innocents, indeed, and then I watched, which, funny enough, I looked at that and it's rated. The Guardian rated it as the 11th best horror film of all time.
Okay.
The Innocents. So I mean, for me, I much prefer those type of movies. So The Joker, I think Joaquin should get. For me, if it was me, I would say because I can see his descent into madness, and it does get slightly worse all the time.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable.
Just starts off with the cigarettes. He wants his meds. That's why I liked Leave No Trace and all that, because the guys, it's a character study. It's him. It's the descent into chaos. A bit like the films, a bit like So yeah, so.
So it'll be interesting to see who does.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't tend to use it as a guide to say, I'll go and watch that because they've given it best Oscar because of this. I don't think it is I don't think it is like that because I know they used to say if it had a nod or if it had a nomination, you would guarantee it got a huge box office as a result. It would suddenly get this boost. But I don't personally think that's the case anymore. That people don't look at that and think, I better go check that out because it got an award. I don't think it's quite that convincing. Anymore for the genuine film goer.
No, I think on occasions there are where, because I mean, I can't think of a film just offhand, but if a film gets, there was recently, there's a film got someone, I don't know if it was, what won the British Award things, there was one, and then all of a sudden it just got really big and they kept it on because, was it, what they call the British Award one?
The BAFTAs.
BAFTAs, yeah. What won the BAFTAs where sort of, well, anyway, something was mentioned in the BAFTAs, and then they decided to keep the film on another couple of weeks because people had seen this and it had been in the BAFTAs.
Yeah.
So,
I better go see it.
So it does work. It does definitely work for some people, not us, because we're a bit more switched on. Yeah, we're a bit more switched on. We're a bit more discerning.
We're a bit more snobbish.
But people say, "Oh, that won an Oscar. That's got to be a good."
We're a bit more snobbish, Shaun. It's
actually, probably 1970.
Is what we can say. We're
Sorry,
snobbish. We're snobbish.
Yeah. Okay. I'll say that then.
All right. Okay. Cool. So let's actually get on. Okay. Let's get on to some films. Let's go to the films that we're going to be talking about today. So we only have 2 films in the cinema and 2 films on Netflix and Friends. So we have on cinema. We're going to kick off with let's give it this full title: The Personal History of David Copperfield. Now, in time-honored fashion, as I said, we have become walking cliches of ourselves. This is a film that's based on a book. So guess who we're going to get to talk about it? Any ideas?
It's your turn. Well, me and Tozen have been a bit pulped most of it. So,
David Copperfield, by Charles Dickens. Yes, it's one of we were discussing this earlier. What Dickens we've read. I've read a few, and I have to say they're easier to watch than they are to read.
For sure. Okay. And I did agree.
Because, I mean, after watching this, I put up on Facebook, I was like, wow, if all of Dickens is like this, I need to read more Dickens. And you came straight on there and went, whoa. You were like, watching this is nothing like reading Dickens.
No.
It absolutely isn't.
No, it absolutely isn't.
Yes, this was a skip along the beach, and Dickens is like wading through sand.
Yeah, exactly. What a great analogy.
That's fantastic. That's awesome, Sharon. You should write that down.
Yeah,
you should.
Because yes, so to summarise, this is the story of David Copperfield's life, and the way they filmed it parallels with Dickens. Yeah. So Dickens used to do these tours where he would like do dramatic readings of his works, and he did them all over the world. He did them all around Europe, and he did them in the Americas, and he did them in London especially. And so he became known for doing that. And so they start the film with David Copperfield presenting "This is my life," and you're led into it like it's a dramatic telling of his life. So you know immediately that the narrative is going to be like snappy. It's going to jump from scene to scene to scene, and so it does. It goes from "This is how I was born," and then you witness his birth, and you then get introduced to the characters, and that does very, very much introduces you in the film to the style of film that's going to be. It's sort of irreverent. It's fast paced. Yeah. It's frenetic in places where you're thinking, hang on a minute, slow it down a bit. I can't quite work out who's doing what you're saying. But yeah, there doesn't pause for breath. It just launches straight into the dramatics of David Copperfield's birth, his sort of childhood, the relationships with his stepfather and his stepfather's sister, then going off to the Norfolk Broads to live with Peggotty's relatives. Yeah. And then his life in London, and then it's a series of these sort of events. Yeah. And the reason why it feels so episodic is basically Dickens wrote it as an episodic novel. So each week you had a different
story.
Event happened in David Copperfield's life. So you do get these sort of complete little stories within an overall story. So if you think these characters get introduced, they play a huge part in it, then they disappear completely. Yeah. It's because in that one particular episode, they were the ones. Yeah. They were like the comic relief or the whatever in that particular episode of the book. Yeah. So you find that all day long, you suddenly get introduced to new characters, and then you have one mini adventure, and then you go on and you get introduced to another set of characters, and you have a mini adventure with them.
Yeah.
Copperfield, my boy.
So yeah, that's why you get all these different names. It's like Copperfield, then it's Davy, then it's Trotwood, then Daisy, then Davy.
Yeah, like everybody calls him a different name, and so okay, cool, thanks, because you're right, it is quite episodic, and there was a bit where I was watching and going, this is a bit like 1917 in that it's like, oh, well-known British actor, bye-bye, well-known British actor, bye. And the cast is amazing. The cast is absolutely... the cast is to die for. And this is the thing we're talking about. This is the film we're talking about when we talk about colorblind casting. Because if you're going to try and look for some sort of like... if I can use the term racial purity or anything like that...
Ethnicity, maybe.
This is not the film to watch it, because David Copperfield is played by Dev Patel, who is a British Indian actor. His mum is white. You never see his dad, so we don't know where his dad comes from. But later on in the film, you have a character played by I think it's Steerforth, played by Aneurin Bernard, whose mum is black, played by a lady called Amuna Bird. And then you have Benedict Wong shows up as a Chinese man who is the lawyer. He's the lawyer.
He's
and
the solicitor,
the financial advisor to
the proctor.
Yeah, to what's her name?
Mrs. Betsy Trotwood.
Betsy Trotwood, played by Tilda Swinton, and his daughter is. His daughter is black, and it's just all over the shop when it comes to that. And quite frankly, I don't know, because I haven't read David Copperfield, but I feel the fact that they just said, we're not doing your typical British costume drama where everybody talks a certain way, where everybody looks a certain way. This is not about that. This is screw all that. Throw that all out the window. And I thought, okay, cool, if that's what we're doing. And they just focus on the story itself. And I think it's a story that lends itself to that kind of casting, because it's a story.
Because it's
definitely. I mean, it was very noticeable, though, wasn't it? I mean, that was
in some places when they're at the school, especially. I thought, literally, there was sort of two sort of white boys in the school. Basically, everyone else they had a sort of whole ethnic, diverse backgrounds, and all of them. I just thought, wow, that's not what we normally see in sort of Dickens. But it didn't. Apart from noticing over now and sort of going, well, okay, but then you went, well, okay, that just fits in the mood of the film, where it was. The word I used, my friend, was it was really well, didn't they? Like, it was just a completely bonkers film, and I think they knew it. Though you got the feeling that everyone taking part of that knew that it was just there was no subtlety in that film. It was a complete sort of bonkers riot.
Because this is directed by Armando Iannucci, who directed The Death of Stalin. Which was done last year or the year before, and he also did The Thick of It, and he started off Veep in the States and all that. And knowing him, I feel like he does things that are not subtle but are very clever, but then there's a layer of subtlety. So I feel like there's a layer of subtlety underneath this somehow. And when I was watching, I was thinking, okay, cool, I know. I remember there was a point I was actually watching and going, all right, so far it's all been mixed, but we haven't seen any black people in prominent roles yet. And okay, is he saying something there? And I'm still not sure that he's not. I'm still not sure that he's not. It's the kind of film that I think I need to go back again and watch. But I agree, it is crazy. It is all over the place, and I love it. I absolutely love the way that it's done, because I feel like it gave a massive breath of fresh air to something that, because I've seen adaptations of David Copperfield before. I know that there's one that was on the BBC that had Daniel Radcliffe in it as a young David Copperfield, and it's very sort of like and I remember even in Nigeria we got some version of David Copperfield, and it's just very stuffy, and you're like, oh my god, what's going on? Okay, cool. I don't even know. Oh my, everything just looks so everything looks like dank and boring.
I would say that version was probably the classic David Copperfield, is in terms of the most faithful to the book. I think the Daniel Radcliffe one, because it is, more faithful to the book. But this is just a riot. I mean, if I had to sort of describe it in two words, I would use. We had to do this exercise when I was at work in an office-based situation where we had these team-building days every now and then. We had to describe ourselves in two words, and I chose quietly subversive.
What, this film?
As my two words. And I would say this film was my two words, was quietly subversive.
I would agree.
In that it just sort of takes something and doesn't do what you expect. Mm-hmm. So it took me a while to get into, I have to say. When I first was watching it, I was thinking, what the hey? And it was just, it didn't pause for breath, but after a while, when you got into the rhythm of it, and then you sort of get the laughs, and then you feel yourself There's one bit with them trying to force one of the characters to eat a lot of heavy cake, and I think me and my friend were were sort of chuckling every time it was like, have a piece of heavy cake. We were just like, no, don't have the cake, don't have the cake.
No, I think it.
So that, we did make us laugh. Yeah, but it took us a little while to get into.
It was a film that I wasn't looking forward to going to watch, because I had one of those movies where I was like, I really don't want to go out the house. I don't want to go to the cinema. I don't want to watch this thing. Oh, for goodness, I just don't want to do it. And so I sat down there, started watching it, because I had to have something to talk about on the podcast, and I found myself laughing my head off. I found myself absolutely just laughing my head off. And I think what he's done with it, it's breathed life into the whole Copperfield thing. And it reminded me a little bit, in more ways than one, like the framing device and everything like that, of Little Women, the most recent version of Little Women, in that like, blurring the lines between the character and the author of the original book, taking something that has been done over and over again and remixing it in such a way that it seems to be totally new. It reminded me of that, but I really like the approach. And I know people are now saying, "Yeah, this is the future, colorblind casting," and I'm like, personally, my take on it is, and I know Holly, our London correspondent, she tagged me in something on Facebook this week, asking where someone had written in the Times saying that colorblind casting is the future. It's been happening in theatre for years, and I think it works with certain it's works with certain types of stories, but not all of them. There are some kinds of stories that will not work. Like, if you're like, there's no way in hell that you can make 12 Years a Slave and say we're going to go colorblind casting. So
no.
So it's like, I think for some things it can work, and where it can work, it should be used more often, because it really, really does breathe life into it and makes you look at it from a different perspective. I would give it a 4 out of 5.
Yes, I would give it a 4 out of 5 as well.
Shaun?
Yeah, for me, I'm just going to say a little bit if I can.
Yes.
Because I haven't said much of this. Yeah.
We've shut you up, haven't we?
This was a really interesting take on it all. As I say, and we had a little discussion before. Pity we didn't discuss it on the thing about some of the characters. I mean, we'll talk about characters, and I'm very, very character driven now. Love Mr. Dick. Love Mr. Dick.
Hugh
Laurie, absolutely brilliant.
He was one of the highlights.
He was really super. One of the highlights.
Yeah.
Now, Peter Capaldi as Mr. Micawber. That wasn't quite the Mr. Micawber that I was expecting. I mean, he was okay, but for me, he should have been a bit more rotund. W.C. Fields. Copperfield, my boy, can you lend me £5? So he was a bit too. For me, he was a little bit too refined to be. Micawber, do you know what I mean? He was a little bit too refined. But Tilda Swinton, what a performance from her! Absolutely, but I think she's great. I love her and everything. Yeah. So I mean, all the characters were, for me, I just really, and it was very character driven as well. I wasn't so keen on Steerforth. I don't know. I was switched off to Steerforth a little bit. I mean, I couldn't quite. That didn't quite. I don't know. He just wasn't quite right. But the rest of it, really, really good. So I would give it a 4-star.
Yeah. I think, coming as somebody who doesn't really know David Copperfield that way, I was just kind of like, well, cool, like it. So four.
I don't lend me £5.
4 stars.
Master Copperfield.
4 stars all around for the personal history of David Copperfield. And now we jump over to Netflix and Friends, where we're going to talk about Britannia season 2. Now, Sharon, you have seen this, and I'm guessing you've seen season 1 as well. So,
yes.
So you follow this thing from the beginning. Now, explain to me how this is anything other than a low-rent British ripoff of Game of Thrones.
Well, it's sort of more historically based than fantasy based, for starters. It's not based on a novel, it's based on a sort of patched together history. It's basically dealing with the successful invasion of Britain. So, in what was 55 BC? No, 55 AD, wasn't it, or something? No, the failed invasion was 55 BC, and the successful invasion was something like 70 AD.
Was it? Oh, wait, okay.
It's a bit later. I'll get the dates all wrong because I'm not very good with that. I know about the Boudicca revolt, but other than that, I'm not really that au fait with Roman history. But anyway, it deals with the first invasion, the successful invasion of Britain, where they make alliances with certain tribes, and then they get like this foothold.
Yep.
The failed invasion of Britain in 55 BC failed because all the tribes united and basically threw out the Romans. Yeah. The second invasion, the tribes were in revolt and they were fighting each other And so when the Romans got a toehold, they weren't united enough to be able to fight them back. And so you see basically the gradual sort of conquering of Britain by one tribe at a time, where they're so busy fighting each other that they can't put up a defence. Yeah. So that's sort of the history. And so they introduce some history, and then they add sort of like intrigue. And they also introduced the element of the Druids. And then in Britannia, seasons 1 and 2, the Druids play a huge role in this. And it's more about them than it is actually about the factual Roman conquest of Britain.
So they're kind of like the chiefs, almost. Or are they're the chiefs, or they're like the priests?
They're the priests. Okay. They're the religious leaders of the country, and they sort of more or less move between all of the tribes. They were sort of like a slightly unifying force. Yeah. But the way they're portrayed, they're basically a load of hippie drug addicts in this particular version. It's all very trippy. They all take sort of different substances, even if it's like, chewing something or sniffing something.
They probably do.
But they are all, and the soundtrack is all 60s sort of surf music and there's a certain vibe to it. It is basically a trippy sort of...
Yeah.
A trippy kind of...
A trippy experience.
I'm just trying to think how you describe it. Yeah. You can't really call it a historic drama, because I think when you look at the clothes and you look at some of the face painting and stuff, you're thinking, yeah, I don't think you've quite got early Britain there.
It's probably done in the vein of Spartacus, I would think.
It is. I think it's got more nods to Spartacus than it has to Game of Thrones. Yeah. And it's very, the word I keep coming back to is it's very trippy, in that everyone is either sort of hallucinogenic or they're having these visions, and they basically go on these spiritual quests. And there's this ancient prophecy about a chosen one, and the chosen one is this young girl. So you see the drama from sort of three perspectives. You see it through the Roman general, played by David Morrissey, who's leaving the conquest of Britain. Then there's this girl who we think is the personification of this, the chosen one, a young girl called Kate, who is being taught the ways of the Druid by this outcast Druid. And then you see the perspective of the Druids by Mackenzie Crook, who plays this bold, tattooed, pierced...
Oh, yeah, I've seen pictures of him of that.
Strung out. Yeah, he's like this sort of strung out hippie dude, who is one of the Druids, who's like the spiritual leader, and all these forces sort of like crash together like a herd of charging rhinoceros, really. And so, again, there's no subtlety in Britannia 1 or 2. Yeah. It's this mad head rush of craziness.
Language?
And so you have to be in the right...
Sounds a bit up my street, that.
So you have to be in the right mood for it. I mean, it's if you want the history of Britain.
Forget
it. And this is not it. And if you want something that is anything other than completely nuts. And if you want a serious look at the life of the Druids, this is not it.
Yeah. Was there a series which was about like King Alfred that was a bit? I forget. There's
The Last Horseman.
Is it The Last Horseman? No, this was a TV series. I think it was like on BBC.
The Last Kingdom.
Last Kingdom. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's more history.
Yeah,
that's not quite so bonkers as
I don't think he was.
This is completely doolally tap, to be honest with you. It's all over the place, but it's entertaining for all that. I mean, it is.
I was going to say, if you watch the whole lot and switch off.
Insane.
Oh, so obviously you saw the first season and you came back for the second one. So there's something that you're quite enjoying. So what do you think about season 2, as in rating wise?
Rating wise, I'd give it a 3 because it's not for everyone. You have to get into it. Because my brother walked in and watched it and went, "Oh, I watched part of that and then I gave up." So he sort of turned around and walked straight back out again when he saw that it was on. So it's not for the faint-hearted. You have to quite persevere with it, because you do get a little bit fed up with the sheer lunacy of it in places. But it is entertaining if you don't care that it's not history, that it's not really history, it's not really costume drama as such. It just happens to be this sort of bonkers drama set in that particular period of time.
It isn't even like Vikings or anything like that.
Oh, nothing like. I mean, there's one particular episode in this one where some rogue legionnaires have sort of wandered off, and they've gone in search of these hallucinogenic mushrooms, and they basically tamper all the water in this legionnaire's camp. This what's it? I can't remember the name of the type of camp is now. Anyway, and they sort of dope the water basically, and then you see the whole legion goes on a mad trip, an LCD type trip. LSD type trip. I'm sorry,
and they show you this LSD trip.
Yeah, and so all the soldiers, one of them is like wandering around in the nude, everyone's like painted himself different colours, some of them like talking to trees, and every sort of trope there is out there about what people do when they take hallucinogenic drugs, you got the whole legion doing it. So you just got Roman soldiers on a sort of mad 5 minutes, and then they're all slaughtered by natives, but that's a bit of a spoiler.
Is it? The battle seems good, Sharon. That's all I want to know.
They're ropey as anything.
Are they ropey as anything?
Well, he's got like these sort of, again, the long-haired hippie type running in with a machete and hacking Roman soldiers.
There's no like major pitch battles then.
Well, the thing is, I looked at this and I figured it was going to be low rent. Not low rent, but it was going to be lower budget than your Game of Thrones or your Witches or anything like, or even your Vikings.
Yes, absolutely.
And from the word go, it looked like that. So, but it sounds like they've managed to. They know what they can focus on, and they've gone with that. So that's 3 stars.
Yeah, they've made it fun and mad and stupid and daft and funny and doolally tat as anything. So yeah, I'd give it a 3, and yeah.
So 3 stars for Britannia season 2. Now we rush back to cinema and we go to the film called The Turning, which only Shaun had seen.
The Turning.
Yeah, and once again, I speak about us all like fulfilling our stereotypes. So Sharon, if it's a literary adaptation, Sharon is there. If it's an animation, I'm there. If it's a horror, guess who's there? So, sure, this is a horror, isn't it?
This is. I mean, it was a choice between this or The Grudge. Now, the thing is, when I read the synopsis, for The Turning, I thought, my God, that sounds just like The Innocents or The Turn of the Screw, which was a book. And there was this film made in 1963, which is rated as the 11th. Deborah Kerr's in it, yeah. And Peter Wingard, who was in. You wouldn't have a clue who Peter Wingard is, but I'm sure Sharon would.
It's the moustache.
Yeah, that's it. He plays Quint there. Anyway, yeah. So I was intrigued by this film. So this is why I chose The Turning, and I thought, right, okay. So, and it is a remake, an updated remake. So it's not like in Edwardian time. It's set more 80s, 90s. I would say 80s. So it's set in the 80s because there's a big old Volvo in it. So not that I'd make it the 80s, but one of those old big square things.
The boxy ones.
The boxy ones. So basically it's the story of this governess. She's a teacher and she wants to be a governess, and she goes to this massive big house to tutor this little girl, Laura. And also she's got a brother who gets expelled from school.
Played by Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard,
who's beginning to get a bit of a reputation as a horror person, like whatever the male version of a Scream Queen is. Because I mean, he's in Stranger Things. He was in It. He's going to be in the new Ghostbusters, which looks a bit horror inflected.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and now he's in this one. It looks like horror movies. You need a teen that can act. Get Finn Wolfhard.
But he is really good in this.
Yeah,
he's really good. I don't think he's quite as scary.
So they're not children then, as in
the little girl's a child. I would say around about 8 or 9 maybe. But the boy's more 15, 16-ish sort of thing, a bit more adolescent. So anyway, all these. Before she goes and visit her mother's, and her mother's in the home, and she's got she's obviously not the full ticket. I don't know if you can say that. She does these paintings and things anyway. So she says goodbye to her mother, then she goes up to this house and she meets a little girl, and the little girl says, promise you will stay, won't you? You will promise me. She says, I promise I'll stay. And then they say, oh no, we can't go down that part of the house, we can't. And then all these sort of stranger things happen and things.
I like what you did there, Shaun. I like what you did there.
So no, you can't go down there. Whatever you do, don't go down there. Even if you hear, she don't even say if you hear, but obviously there's noises going on and all sorts of stuff like this. Yeah. So anyway, the adolescent boy, he says, he goes into a bedroom and sort of takes a picture of her asleep and all that, and she wakes up and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he says, "I thought you might like it." So she gets a bit freaked out by all that, and she gets freaked out, and the housekeeper, really, really well played, I thought, was really, they're thoroughbreds, what do you expect? You know what I mean? She's really, really quite harsh.
Yeah.
So it's like this descent, and creepier things happen, and mannequins happen, and you see things in mirrors and stuff.
So,
a lot of horror tropes.
But what you said that this is pretty much a modern remake of quite a famous film.
Of The Innocents, yeah, definitely. It is a remake of the.
So based on a Victorian novella, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is it officially a remake, or is it like one of those things that's just stolen a lot from the film?
It's
just stolen. It's just stolen, I think. I just it's not like they haven't said a remake because they didn't call it The Innocents.
Oh yeah.
So it's basically about, the boy getting control. He wants control, and this thing happened with there used to be like a chap who looked after the horses, a stableman or groundskeeper. In the original, he was like the gardener, wanted Quint, and he's just a really, really, and in the novel, really, really vile character. And it's almost like he takes possession of the adolescent boy, and he is really, really nasty, and he plays the part really, really well. He's horrid, and kids do that. They just really, really know how to dig the knife in. It's just like, oh, you're not even.
Okay,
so
yeah,
but you never really. Yeah, go on.
No, I was just going to ask. I was going to ask Shaun. Like, I'm forming a couple of pictures in my head, bearing in mind that you go watch horror movies. You watch horror movies all the time, and you keep coming back. And every time you watch a horror movie, I expect you to come back and go, "Oh, for goodness sake, that didn't scare me. It was rubbish. It was this. It was that. Oh, and the ending. These are the kind of things I expect to hear you say, Shaun." So, number one, that's what happens when you go watch horror films. Number two, this is a remake of a film that you like, and we know that those tend not to fare well. They tend not to fare well in your estimation whatsoever. You do not hold back on that. So at the moment, I'm thinking that things are not looking good for this film. Am I right?
Yeah, you could be. It's sort of heading that way. I think. Yeah, you know me. I'm a creature of habit. I'm a creature of habit. So yeah. Just to finish the story, anyway, in the first one, you never really know if it's just because she was mad.
Yeah, that's very much.
That's because you never know if it's just her descent into madness that she's actually seeing these visions
it's much
and
more
stuff.
Psychological, isn't it? A lot of it.
But they did the same with the end of this movie. But what really annoyed me is I could understand that, but there were some shots in the film where she's maybe washing her hands or whatever, and then you get an appearance in the mirror like you do. Well, why would she be washing her hands? You might see it in the mirror, but if it's just there, do you know what I mean? So maybe it's more. There were just a few bits. It didn't quite ring. But I did think the boy who played Miles, I think I can't remember his name, was really, really good and really, really nasty
Finn
character.
Finn Wolfhard, he's a very good actor. Very good.
Finn Wolfhard, yeah, and the little girl was pretty good as well. She was. So, having been a big fan of the original, or I don't know, they called it The Turning. So, yeah, it didn't really quite cut the mustard. It had some. They tried it. It was the old horror trope. You thought, I can see what that's coming. There's always the mirror. There's always like the
why have they framed? Why have they framed this shot so away? Why is that space above their left shoulder? I see.
The one thing I like about going to see the horror films is you can actually see. I was the only one watching. I was the only one in there. I was the only one in there watching it. It was in screen 6, and I heckled it myself. I think I thought, right, okay, I can see this. There it is. There's the mirror. Oh, there's the mannequin sat on the chair. That's going to move in a minute. The head's going to move. And
there's normally a doorway scene, isn't it, where you don't
bang, a few bangs. You know what I mean?
Creaking doors, or there's a suggestion of movement.
Don't turn on the lights. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so how many stars would you give it?
Okay, interesting. This one. I'm going to give this one. I'm going to give this one a low 3. I think it's a 3 just because the performances were good.
Yeah.
Because I did really think the performances were first class.
Yeah.
The housekeeper and the children. The lead, not quite so sure. And the lead's mum, but. For just purely because I thought the acting was pretty believable. Good. But yeah, so it's going to be a low 3.
All right, good stuff. All right, and so now for our final film, we're going to go back to Netflix and Friends. This is actually something that I saw on Netflix, and this falls into the category of things that were in the cinema, but we had a very, very small release, and we're not in any cinema near me. It was a film that I think was being spoken about for Oscars. I'm not sure whether it was this year or last year, but it stars Regina Hall, who's mostly known as a comedic actress. It's a film called Support the Girls. And I heard a lot of good things about this performance, and it was a case of couldn't find it anywhere in the cinema, couldn't see it anywhere. And so when my sister-in-law came around this weekend and she said, "Oh yeah, let's watch something that's going to be on Netflix or cinema," I said, "Well, this is on my list, and I'm trying to get through my list this year. And my aim for this year is to try and get through my Netflix list and just get things off that have been there for 3 years, just watch them and get it." So I decided to watch this, Support the Girls. And it is Regina Hall plays a manager of a restaurant, and this is a restaurant that's very much like Hooters, and it's called Double Whammies. Once again, not very subtle.
Oh
yes, I know. I think we're having a bit of a not very subtle week. but yeah, so she's the manager of a restaurant called Double Whammies, and the first scene of the film, you see her sat in her car in the car park crying before she goes into work. And when she goes into work, there's all these things that go on. Like, she's in there and there's a whole bunch of people who showed up to be inducted to see whether they're going to be whether they're going to be Double Whammies girls. And so she's talking them through how everything works in Double Whammies. And then she starts hearing this noise from the ceiling, and it shows that somebody has tried to sort of break into her kitchen overnight and steal from her safe. And this is one of those films that straight off the bat where nothing really happens. Nothing really happens. There's incident, but there isn't really a plot. It's just kind of like, a day in the life. A day in the life of a woman who runs this restaurant, and how she tries to deal with everything. She tries to deal with a misogynistic and overbearing owner. She tries to deal with the fact that some of the girls who she sees as a family who work for her make really, really bad life choices, and how is she going to help them and do things like raise. She holds this sort of charity raising things, and they're not really charity raising things. She's trying to raise money to get one of the girls bail money to get them out of jail or something like that. And she just comes across. It's a very good performance by Regina Hall, and it just because she communicates this character who is just put upon because she has the weight of the world on her shoulders. She's trying to do everything. Everybody sees her as the really, really capable person in her office, that she's trying to get everything done, but her life is a bit sort of falling apart. So it's a good performance, but there's a lot of stuff in the film that, and even from me just talking about it, you might be thinking, yeah, we've seen this before. I'm not sure, but that sort of like archetypal character is like really, 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 really capable, but the home life is just sort of like falling apart and all that. And there's some really funny bits. I think there's a lot of, when it comes to performances, I have to talk about Haley Lou Richardson, who plays this. She works in this bar, so everybody knows what Hooters is like. Women wear crop tops and they wear hot pants, and that's what they walk around. And the majority of the people in the bar are men who come there, but she's just like this sort of like ray of sunshine who thinks that this is all just so kind of fun and all that, and she thinks it's such a great place to work, and she loves her and she just sort of like bubbles off the screen. And it's a really kind of, I think it's a hard performance to sort of do, because you've got to keep it going, you've got to keep being this ray of sunshine throughout the whole film and still come across like a real human being and not just so quite frankly, an idiot. And I think it's done very well, but it is one of those films where not much happens. It is one of those films where it's just kind of like, a day in the life of, and it's like vignette of this, vignette of that, all that. So it's, and there's some times when you think this is the kind of film that could very easily work as a play, and it wouldn't really lose much. So I quite liked it. My sister-in-law Adjo fell asleep. but I would give it. I'll give it a 3 out of 5. I think it's a high 3. It's not like, how I can't remember what film was we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, and we're like, this is a nailed in the wood. Like this is just a 3-star movie. This is like none more 3-star. It's a little bit more than. It's not really that. It's at least it's quirky. It's kind of. But I think it falls into some of the tropes of, when you have that independent movie and it just falls into the tropes of, oh, this is what independent movie is like, and you think, oh, you know exactly what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And it is a bit like that. You can see that they don't have much money. They do good stuff with it. They do good character work. But all in all, I give it 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Yeah. And that is us done for films this week for everything that we've seen. Now, I've got to put that in. That's a 3. So that's all that's left is for me to ask you guys, because I have it in front of me and you guys don't. Who do you think has won this week?
I think cinema had 4s, and I think everyone else had 3. So I would go with cinema this week.
I'm going to go cinema for Copperfield. Yeah, David Copperfield pulled it.
Yeah.
Hold it off.
Yes, you are right. David Copperfield has come and stood opposed everything like a crazy
Save
good,
cinema.
sugar mad colossus.
It's like Thor's hammer. Like Thor's hammer. Yeah, it sort of, pulls me off.
Yeah, so it's done. Cinema is the winner this week. I have to say one thing about David Copperfield. I quite like the color palette of it, because it isn't your typical Dickens color palette. Like, it's actually bright and colorful, and there's one particular scenes when you're in Betsy Trotwood's house. I remember looking at that and going, oh my word, that's not what I expect of Dickens. That's bright, vibrant, and it's jumping out at you and everything. But yeah, I really, really like what they did with the film. Well done, Armando Iannucci. I'm sure that now I've told him that it's made his day. So
he's going to be retweeting that one. Yeah.
All right.
Or whatever they do.
So, I mean, he's doing well. He's doing well.
Yeah, okay, so now, I guess that's it for us until next week. I mean, Shaun, you're not going to be around because you're going to be flying off. And
yeah.
All I want to see, Shaun, is I want a picture of you in a Stetson on a horse.
Okay, I'll try my best. No promises.
Yeah.
No promises. You might find me in a I don't know, New York Yankees baseball cap or something. Well, I'll see if I can get a Stetson.
At a baseball game. At a baseball game, that'll work. Yeah.
Oh, I am going to a basketball game.
Ooh, cool.
I'm going to go and watch a New York Knicks.
Trying to get Sav caught on the kiss cam.
So I'll try and get that, yeah. So I'm going to watch a New York Knicks versus the Miami Heat.
Oh,
okay.
Good stuff. Okay, I do not know any of the players who are playing for any of those teams right now, but Shaun, I want a picture of you. I want a selfie of you in the crowd. And
I'll try. Okay.
Sharon, you will not be around next week because you are going to be getting ready for your birthday.
Yes, I've got like
I'm so sorry.
Couple of weeks of events. I always view my birthdays that end with a naught as like gladiatorial games. Instead of sort of sacrificing Christians to a sort of burning auditorium of violence, I have lots of cake. So it's very similar.
Heavy cake?
Heavy cake? I could probably knock out you with that. So yes, I'm having a sequence of events over the next couple of weeks. And so this next week is full of them. So I have not a spare moment at all. So yes, I shall enjoy roaring into my 50s next week.
So Shaun, you know that seeing as neither of us is going to be at Sharon's birthday, you know what we're going to have to do now, right?
I'm going to have to sing it too.
And a one, cake. And a two. A happy birthday to
you. Happy birthday to you.
Happy
next
birthday,
week.
Dear Sharon.
2 weeks.
Happy birthday
2 weeks time.
To you. Yes. So because of that, Sharon...
she's a jolly good fellow. Okay. Happy birthday for next couple of weeks, Sharon. I'll give you a little bit of a hug now. We're going to a little...
Okay, so Sharon, you will not be around next week, but you will not be around next week, but I have a plan. So if anybody's listening to this, at the moment, get in touch with me. Netflix via Cinema on Twitter, and what I want to do is next week I want to have a listener Netflix for cinema. Tell us what you've seen in the cinema, what you've seen on Netflix, what you think, and then we'll figure out who the winner is.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
It will be. I'm hoping it will be. So anyway, if there's any listeners, get in touch. We would love to get you on and find out what it is that you've been watching. But until that time, it's a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me.
And cheerio, Copperfield from me.
Goodbye, guys. See you next week.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.